You're listening to the Kitchen Confession Podcast with Chef Mary Mammoliti. Well, hello. This is Kitchen Confession's Cut for Time. And if you're here and you're wondering, why aren't you Mary? Well, that's because I'm Matt, producer and editor, here to take you behind the scenes of our little show and share some of the things that we wanted to share, but didn't. In other words, that which we cut for time. But before we do that, I always like to share a little fact, and today's fact is that every week Mary and I have a production meeting where we go over schedules and the people that we want to talk to and what we're going to ask them, and music and just general recording things. Usually the last about 20 minutes of those meetings consist of Mary yelling back and forth whiskey recommendations between me and her husband Frank. We discovered a little while back our shared interest of whiskey, and so just about every production meeting now ends with Mary yelling something like, Isla! No, Isla? No, he says he doesn't like Isla. Am I saying that right? I've become something of a whiskey collector in recent years, and I've got a good number of Frank's recommendations on my whiskey board here, including Breckenridge American Bourbon, which is made using the water of melted glaciers, and Wayne Gretzky's very own 99 red cask whiskey, which is aged in red wine barrels. So a couple cool picks. Frank's got a really great taste in whiskey, and hey, if you want to know what you should try, you go ahead and tweet at Kitchen Confession Podcast, and you too can join the proud tradition of asking Mary to ask Frank what you should try. All right, let's get to it. This time on Cut for Time, we've got some excerpts from our interview with Susie Duragon. She's been on the show a couple of times, and she's a blogger and a baker and a recent cookbook author. She came on the show to share about her new book, Just Crumbs Baked, some of the nostalgic memories that she's got behind the recipes in there, and as well her experience self-publishing for the first time. So here's a little of what we cut for time.
Just as I was sort of coming to the end of creating all the recipes and testing them and stuff, I remember meeting somebody and they were like, oh my God, I heard you're writing a book. And I'm like, yeah. And for anybody in your audience that doesn't know me, I think I'm hilarious, because
you are. I can confirm that.
You and I are very similar in that way. But like, when I do a post, it's like people are like, it's funny because during this whole, the Black Lives Matter over the last couple of weeks, just my last post, I kind of snuck a little joke in there. And so two people said, you're back. And I'm like, yes, I'm back. So I met somebody and they were like, I can't wait for the book. It's going to be so funny. And I was like, no, it's not going to be funny because how do I make Bake It Forward funny? It'd be like, very philosophical and a talk about like the goodness in people. And like, I have two very different sides of me. And I was like, so I'm like, how am I going to do that? So, that's when I spoke to Fina, who's my friend, Fina Scropo, who wrote a book called The Healthy Italian, but she's also an editor. That's her day job. And so I hired her to edit my book, and we were talking, and that's when she said to me, being a cookbook author, she said, you always have to assume that you may potentially write another book. So it's always good to have your first book branded so that it's like, this book is called Just Crumbs Baked. So my next book might be called Just Crumbs Holidays. And my next book might be called Just Crumbs Tips, whatever. So that you kind of create, even if you're never going to do it again, it's good to have that sort of, ease
option
into the next one. Yeah. And so that's when she said, we can do it like a cookbook. You can insert all your humor into the book and then have a little section in the back talking about the Bake It Forward project. So that's pretty much what it is.
So would it be your grandmother who was most influential to you?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because she was, I loved her, and she meant the world to me, and like I said, we weren't like, it wasn't like we were baking every day or anything, but she would, she would say things like, she was. I remember her talking about a boy in her town, and she said, she told me one day that was who she really loved, and I was like, wait. You're not talking about no. And she's like, no. She hated my grandfather. Like they screamed at each other every day until the day they both died. Yeah. And so I remember saying, like, what are you talking about? She said, there was a boy in my town. And she said, and I loved him. She said, but I had to marry your grandfather because that's just how things were. Like you were connected to somebody that you were told this is who you marry. And she said, it's fine. And I looked, and she had this look in her eyes, and I was like so sad for her. And then she said to me, and at this point she was almost 80. And she said to me, not a day goes by where I don't think about him.
Oh, wow.
Oh my God, I want to cry. So she was like, those are weird conversations that you don't generally have with like an old Italian grandmother. So
yeah. Okay, so we've talked about nostalgia, your book. What are you curious or passionate about, like right now?
Right now, gosh, honestly, Mary, my head is spinning like I can't tell you. I can't even think about what I'm passionate about, because I feel like there's like a million things I should be doing, a million things I should be learning, a million people I should be talking to. And it's really hard to like focus on the beauty of the moment, if that makes any sense. I mean, I live on a farm, and I live on 35 acres, and I have,
I love that.
water in my backyard. And it's funny, I was talking to my son's girlfriend the other day who was here, and in the summer it's really pretty. In the winter I feel like I live in Narnia. It's like really very cold here. But in the summer it's beautiful, and you just look outside, and it's there's wheat fields, and they're all blowing, and you can see the sun setting over the hills. And my son's girlfriend said, she goes, Susie, it's so pretty here. And I said, honestly, when I close my eyes and I think, I wonder what heaven would look like. That's what I think of. Like, I just think, like, if I died, that's what I think. I would picture me somewhere with a big table, making some kind of food on the table, and what I see every day, that's what I would see. So to me, I think what I'm passionate about would be to be able to rein in my time and focus a bit more, so that I could enjoy all those moments, like
and be in the moment.
Yeah.
Instead of rushing through it. Yeah.
Really, really hard for me.
Yeah. I get that.
I have squirrel brain to the nth degree. It's really bad. To a point where I actually don't understand people that don't have squirrel brain. It's really like, I
a lot of creatives do though.
Yeah, I know. And nobody will give you the right answer. Nobody will say, oh, you should do this to focus on, and I did yoga for 8 years. I tried meditation. I can't tell you the amount of money I spent on things, but I feel like it's such a detriment to just being present, right? Being like, I grow my own, I grow 70% of what we eat in the summer, and it's awesome, but I'm literally rushing through everything. Like last night, it was like the sun's setting. I'm out there and picking things. I'm getting bitten by mosquitoes. I'm running in. I'm, taking stems off of kale. My husband's like, come and sit down. I'm like, I'll be there in a minute. And, cleaning the table. And so it's just, everything is rushed. So I think if I could just slow down, that to me would be the best.
Okay, before you go, it's time for my kitchen confession. I am a pesto lover, yet a basil killer. Every year, I try and plant a whole bunch of basil that I can use. I love throwing it in everything. I cannot, however, for the life of me, keep them alive. At the end of last year's growing season, I confidently shared some tips that I had learned with Mary about how to keep basil from bolting, or when it tries to go to seed. When it does that, it loses a lot of the flavor in the leaves, and the stem gets all woody, as if it's like trying to turn itself into a bush. And it's just kind of no good for cooking. So I shared a couple tips with her, very confidently. This is what you have to do to grow good basil. And at the start of this growing season, I confidently planted 2 new Italian basil plants and proceeded to overwater them and then forget them outside in a 40-degree heat wave. And when it came time to compare shots with Mary, she sent me a photo of her basil bush, which had grown double in size at least. Deep green, beautiful, looked amazing. And then I sent her a photo of my measly, pale green, woody-stemmed, sad little basil. That's it. That's all you get. You know where to find us, at Kitchen Confession on Instagram. Please reach out and let us know what you think. Or go to kitchenconfession.com to hear literally everything we have ever done. Thanks to producer and host, Mary Mammoliti, and thank you for sticking with me.